So Brian McClendon, he's a Senior Vice President for Engineering in Niantic, where he leads ARGeo, which includes augmented reality, mapping, research, and webAR, or eighth wall. He was a part of the founding team at Keyhole, which would later become Google Earth. Dr. McClendon led the Geo team at Google that built Google Maps, Google Earth, and Street View before leading engineering work at Uber. And tonight, Brian will talk about Pokémon Go. He will talk about building a 3D dynamic AR map of the world. And Brian, may I invite you to the podium?
Thank you. Thank you very much, and I will place my two different GPS devices on the shelf here. And actually, we're 2 slides. Go back here. So I just want to say thank you for having me, and also thank you for building this system. Basically, everything that I have done since 1998, which is 1 year after I think you were there, I've been working on location-based products. Initially, this Keyhole product, which I'll talk about a bit, but all the way up to very recently. So I now work at Niantic Labs, which is the company that made Pokémon Go as well as several other games. And many of you have children, or yourselves may have remembered the summer of 2016 when Pokémon Go was released. Between July and August, 500 million people got out, got exercise, played Pokémon Go whether they understood Pokémon or not, because everybody was doing it. It was an insane craze. That was wonderful. The game continued, and we don't have 500 million users, but we have enough users that it's the still top 5 game in the business right now, and so it pays the bills that fund my research, where I build software for the platform for Pokémon Go, but also for AR and mapping. And so I'll talk a little bit about that. Niantic uses location to do 2 things. It enables gameplay around us, so as you know where Pokestops and gyms are where you go looking around. And as well, we're now working on a visual positioning system, and that's really the only special sauce I can talk about that would be interesting to you guys at the end, but I'll tell you how we got there and how it applies. My history a little bit, before I worked on location, I worked at Silicon Graphics doing 3D graphics, then started this company Intrinsic, which led to Keyhole, which got acquired by Google, and then spent some time at Uber as well. Keyhole. So back in the late 1990s and 2001, we built this software that could take satellite imagery and integrate it and make it easy to use. And this was a huge step. Satellite imagery had existed, but it was hard to work with. And so we built this great user interface. It excited Google so much that in 2004 they acquired us and made Google Earth out of it. At the same time, they also acquired 4 other people, made Google Maps, and the local search, and that group, Geo, is where I spent the next 10 years building all the products that the doctor just mentioned. This was our first Google Map launch in 2005. What was cool about it was that it was web-based, and it was draggable. And what's interesting about this map, if you notice well, you probably can't read it, but the comment in the bottom is the text is in German. And the Germans are unhappy with this map because it's incomplete. We launched it with only the UK, US, Mexico, and Canada. That didn't last very long, but the Germans got their way. And over the next several years, we built up maps using third-party data for most of the countries around the world. I think we had map data for every country, but some of it better than others. But what we learned with GPS devices and with this Street View car was that if you have precise information about where you are, either you're standing there and you're looking around, or somebody has pleasantly taken pictures and then placed them exactly where they're supposed to be. What we discovered was that map data was not very good. The professional suppliers at the time had done the best they could. They used to drive around in vans and take notes and take pictures and then update the maps when they got back to the farm. This didn't produce the best maps you can make. And so what we struggled with was all of our users would complain, your maps are wrong, that's not that road name, that's not that address. And we were giving them the physical evidence. Our pictures were showing them what was wrong with the map. And so, if they had a blue dot on their GPS, the GPS was showing them, I'm standing right here, but this map is wrong. So this led to a project at Google called Ground Truth. Now I know you guys have far more important applications for that name, but it turned out to be the code name for our project. And our goal was to build better quality maps of every country in the world. And we started out with whatever the best data we could get. In the U.S., the Tiger data set is a semi-decent road data set. We had all of the Street View pictures, and we also had GPS tracks that we collected from users, from phones. And combining all of this data together, we started to build maps. And you've probably seen pictures like this. I think that was a picture of the Tiger data when we got it. And we used elbow grease, among many other things, to just grind through and make better maps and launch the United States in 2009. We kept working on it. And obviously it doesn't scale to do everything manually. And we learned very quickly that we can't possibly get all those addresses right if we have to do it manually. So we took our Street View data and said, here's this address, 1510 El Camino Real. Where exactly is it? And the old school method was basically say, well, it's from 1500 to 1600, and you just interpolate in between those numbers, and it's probably about right. Well, that assumes you even had the numbers right to begin with. Well, we had all these pictures. So we wrote a program that would cut out anything that looked like a 1 to 5 digit number or letter, and then we sent it to the best OCR algorithms we could get. And we got about 35% accuracy, and that wasn't good enough. So we then took that same data and we wrote some software to put it in front of our elbow grease operators who were working on building maps and gave them a very boring task. Look at a picture, type a number. And they did that. And we got another set of data that helped, I think, map the United States moderately well. But that didn't work at scale. It's too expensive. So turns out that many of you helped us make Google Maps. So think about 10 years ago, you were presented with 2 pictures, some letters, some numbers. We knew what those letters were. You typed in those right, you were a human. You were recaptured and you were good. But you also typed in those numbers for us, and we didn't know what those were. So you helped us label 2 billion pictures of numbers. And now in this day and age, many of you are deeply familiar with machine learning and what that means, which is we had ground truth pictures and numbers labeled data. And we were at Google at a very opportune time. So the Google Brain, known as now as TensorFlow, was being invented by Jeff Dean and the groups there. And we had an intern from that group come over and say, hey, do you guys have any good data that we can try on this thing we can't tell you about? And we said, yeah, here's this data set. Go wild. 3 months later, we got a machine learning system that was more accurate than any 2 humans combined at dealing with dealing with all of this really bad imagery data. So if you look at these numbers, the one problem with street addresses, especially in the U.S., maybe they're standardized a bit more in other countries, is anybody can put any set of numbers up and it's good enough. No font consistency, no color consistency. Half the time one of the numbers fell off and all you're seeing is the rust of the 7 below it. Our system was able now to recognize all of these automatically. And so now Google Maps could drive a Street View car down the street, collect the data, automatically send the images to this machine learning algorithm, and get the geometrically precise location of that because we had used alignment of LiDAR and imagery to correctly geographically get the pose of all of those Street View images. And that is how we made Google Maps so good that Apple fell on its face in 2012 when they launched their maps. Sorry. There may be some Apple people in here, but that was a mistake. So, how did we get here? So in 2014, Google, we have this idea of an April Fool's joke. Now, many of you remember there was a sort of competition among tech companies in this era to have the most exciting April Fool's joke. One of my engineers from Japan came to me and said, hey, I've got this idea. Could we do Pokemon in Google Maps? And he convinced the Pokemon company and Nintendo to agree to let us do this April Fool's joke for a week. And we launched a special hidden version of Pokemon searching in Google Maps and created this launch video and said, if you can find them all, you can join Google as a Pokemon master. And this turned out to be the most popular April Fool's joke of all time, at least online. And we had hundreds of thousands of people who we actually gave this business card to because they participated and were able to find the Pokemon. This led this engineer. I then introduced him to a friend of mine, one of the co-founders of Keyhole, who had now started a new project called Niantic inside Google. And he connected. And my friend John Henke was very interested in making spatial geo games and geo experiences. And this turned out to be the perfect thing. They connected. Google decided, well, this shouldn't belong inside Google. They spun it out. So now Niantic Labs is a separate company. And now we get to 2016, which I talked about. We launched Pokemon Go, or they launched Pokemon Go, and it took the world by storm. And it depends on location. Yeah, I was in that video. It was very silly. So the question is, what do we do at Niantic? John Henke built a company focused to inspire people to explore the world together. And explore is important. We want people to get out, get exercise, and find what's out there. And also to do it, hopefully, together. And I'll get to why that's important here at the end. We've launched several games. There's four launched at this moment. Ingress was one of the old ones. Pikmin Bloom is a Nintendo-based game. And Peridot is sort of the best augmented reality game you'll ever see. You should give it a try. Most importantly, tomorrow night, we are launching Monster Hunter, which, if anybody's played Monster Hunter on Capcom, this is the best Monster Hunter game you will ever see. It's going to be not quite as big as Pokemon Go, but it will be quite big, we think. We have 3 million people signed up, so we're very excited. But anyway, these four in market today, and tomorrow we'll have a 5th game. So that's some news. How do we think about building maps? So, at Google, we started with satellite imagery. That was what we knew. And we also eventually started collecting lots of aerial imagery to have higher accuracy. We started building those ground truth maps. We use Street View to do it. So from a resolution perspective, sort of Street View is currently the best that Google has. And they've done a lot of work with it. You can zoom into a 360 image. That's nice. But you can also see how Google has connected these together and done spatial transformations so you can actually navigate a world inside the pictures of Street View. They've also built APIs around Street View, and the Geospatial API just came out. It's very cool localization using visual positioning. But it has a challenge, which is it's accurate to on the order of 1 meter. Some users are reporting maybe 2 meters of accuracy. We needed something much higher resolution in Niantic, and so we started asking our Pokemon players to scan the locations around Pokestops. So we have 20 million Pokestops around the world, and we focus first on a few of them, but now on many of them, and basically just do effectively video scans, but with some extra IMU information. And so we got hundreds of millions of videos. They consciously chose it. We don't do it passively. When they actively say they're going to submit a scan, they get to upload it. And from that, we built meshes, we built localization systems, and we're integrating that data with, at the moment, OSM maps. There's a new product called Overture Maps, for those of you who are keeping track, that is a potentially better collection of maps data, and we'll be working with that. And our goal is to have as much information about the areas around where people play games. And in a perfect world, it would be the entire world, but we're going to start with where people play. And that data is more than what Google Maps has. It's semantics of objects in the scene. Like, what is is that a chair? Is that grass? Is that a tree? Is that a statue? Is that a fountain? All of that matters to gameplay because our characters, certainly Pokémon and other game characters, care about the environment they play in. But long term, I think many of us are going to care about the world around us once these augmented reality glasses finally come out. So anyway, we've been working very hard on building this map at a human scale. And there's a visualization of what it'll look like, but you can see there's a lot of layers, some of which already exist through these other providers, but some of which just do not exist at all, and that's been our focus. So, as I said, our mapping solution, we are crowdsourced and constantly refreshed, so we can get newer data than most other providers, and it's available where you play. And this is a tricky phrase for you guys, it's a centimeter level precision. I will not claim it's 1 centimeter, but it is sub 5. And I'm very happy with the decimeter challenge. The other aspect of our visual positioning system that we care a lot about is pose, because we need to know where you're looking as well, and we need to get that aligned. And so obviously gravity and other things can help. But this is what it looks like. So the meshes and systems we build are generated from the geometry and videos that our users are collecting. And that was too short. I was really hoping for a different one. So this is another example, same idea, showing the difference between say Street View and some of the imagery we create, and some of the things that we can do with this data. Again, these are all generated from video scans uploaded by our Pokémon Go users. And at scale, this allows for very high quality gameplay. Like these benches actually matter for how the game would play out in a location like that. That's Nicole Tesla. Oh, that's very cool. Anyway, so we're continuously working to improve the quality of the reconstruction of both the textures and the imagery. But the main reason that we're doing this is actually for the visual position. So the same meshes or same data that generates those meshes allows us to use the person's location to absolutely nearly perfectly place data like this. This is definitely sub-meter. Probably sub 10 centimeter quality there. This experience might work. This is kind of a crazy picture. Just ignore that. Some of these might work, with a 10 centimeter better resolution, but others really matter where you're standing and where the object is placed. And we found that gameplay makes sense, like this for example, where you know exactly what both the geometry and your position relative to it is. So augmenting the world only works if you both know where you are and where you're looking. And so getting that pose right, getting where's the phone pointed, really matters to our experience. And so all of these are examples of, and what's interesting about these actually is, the doctor mentioned Eighth Wall. So Eighth Wall is our web-based product. So we have a Unity, C++, or C# based library that you can develop with if you want to try it. But this is a JavaScript web-based product. So it does a lot of the pose in the organization itself. I'll go back and play this one more time. Yes. And and because it's web-based, it means that you can try this out with nothing more than a QR code or a URL. And this allows for experiences out in the real world that are easy to use, easy to share. And so there's a lot of marketing companies selling many different things using this capability, but we're also building games and experiences that I think are the beginning of, as I said, what happens when instead of a phone in front of your face like this, it's glasses in front of your eyes. And once those are there, then you really need to know exactly where you're looking, because if you try to augment the world and your position is off, your pose is off, it's not going to work. And so one of our challenges is we need extremely high precision and extremely good pose. Otherwise, the experience just doesn't work. And we're learning a lot with our phone-based systems, so Android and iOS. Apple has very good ARKit, Google AR Core, providing us with a lot of tracking, but that doesn't give you true world pose, and so that's where we're mostly focused. Let's see what else I have here. So, I said explore the world together. The other big application of knowing exactly where you stand is shared AR. So in this scenario here, each of these people is localized to one of the statue that you saw for a moment there, and they're now able to see the same thing at the same place, and in some cases, I don't know if we showed here, see where each other are and where their phone is. And to do that, they have to maintain that pose extremely accurately across several second to low number of minute session without making a mistake. And so this was launched just a few weeks ago, and the web-based version was launched a couple of months ago. And again, accuracy matters. This won't work if what you have is 1 meter accuracy. And so we think that there is a world in which we can build the world from the bottom up with a much higher resolution system. So one of our challenges, and you've probably experienced this with some of the games, is that if you where am I going with this? If you only can play the game when you're at the place, then you have to get out and do it, and that's certainly the core mission of Niantic. But if you want multiple people to share the experience, you either have to all agree, same place, same time, or you can take these geometric meshes that we've created, high resolution, bring them into your living room, on your dining room table, and you can co-locate with somebody who is out there in the real world. And so that actually plays to the virtual reality headsets that we have today, including the new Apple one that has been announced but not yet shipped, which is actually extremely good. But it allows multiple people to share the same experience, whether they're at the place or not. And so we believe this is going to be sort of a foundation of both gaming and experiences in the future. And it all depends on, do we have enough locations, enough accuracy, so that a user on the left there can localize, a user in the middle can localize in their room, and then have the same experience across both. So that's what we're building. That's what my teams are focused on. Building maps at scale is very hard. As Google knows to this day, the amount of data you need to process is very large, and error creeps in all the different places. So when I was at Google, we spent a lot of time working on precision, and going through all the challenges that satellite data have, including which projection, what year it is, and whether continental drift has moved us slightly. You guys live this every day, but for those of us in the data business, it's nice when we can align data, but now it's got to be accurate both when you collect it and as the world slowly moves around you. Because at a centimeter, it is moving material number of centimeters per year in the Bay Area, for example. So those are our challenges, and our goal is to be able to allow all of these devices, whether it's a phone, AR glasses, VR headset, the MR headsets, to be able to have the same experience at the same time. And we have discovered, if you haven't been watching, augmented reality glasses are really hard. They've been pushed back a little bit. The Apple device is not technically an augmented reality device, it's called mixed reality, but it's very, very good and can sort of simulate the experience. But we believe that many of you who wear glasses today will replace your phone with an interface on the glasses. But if you want to augment the world around you accurately, you need this map. And I have bombed through this way too quickly, but I'm happy to answer more questions if you'd like. But the answer to where do Pokémon go, our goal is wherever you want them to. Thank you very much.